welcome to Shop Talks.
Welcome.
Shop Talks is a production of the Ink Kitchen. We have free information online and on our YouTube channel. Check it out at inkkitchen.com. Check the YouTube out. All right, and this will be on there as well. If you want to check it out later, hear it again, digest it. We're sponsored also by Los Angeles Apparel, Stalls, Easy Way, and Her Solutions, and this show, Impressions. I'm Rick Roth from the Ink Kitchen. I have with me my friend and artist I admire, Alyx Spurrier. I'll also put in a little plug right now. We have posters for sale for a local homeless charity that's great called Upspire, and the posters are really cool, and you can see them printed, and Alyx designed them. Sixth in a series of posters that we've done benefiting homeless programs. All right, Alyx, we're going to talk a little about using AI in a positive way that doesn't rip people off. What do you got to say?
So first of all, thanks, Rick, for having me back this year. It's always a pleasure. I just kind of wanted to start with a little bit of a slideshow that kind of shows how I work, my style, and how I implement AI in my design workflow. So we'll just go ahead from there. First off, I'm Alyx Spurrier. I'm a designer from Fort Worth, Texas. I live about 20 minutes from here. Been an art director for print shops for about 10 years now, so I know from design to print how everything has to work. So that's kind of my specialty, is designing for things that get printed on t-shirts is where I've wound up. So I was actually the art director at a little shop called Printed Threads here in Fort Worth, about 10 minutes from here. I did that for about 6 years. This is one of my designs that went on a hoodie of theirs. There was no AI involved in this. This is just kind of my style, so you guys can see the type of work that I do. Got to work with Shooter Jennings, which is actually Waylon Jennings' son. Do a t-shirt design. And,
Like Waylon, only much drunker.
Right, yeah. No cowboy hat. Toadies, if you've ever heard their songs on the radio, I got the privilege of doing some stuff for them. We got a kind of a delay on this, I think. Okay. So this is basically how I implement AI in my workflow. It's never a prompt to finished design approach. I use it as inspiration. I use it to generate assets that I use in the designs, and I use it as a presentation tool for visualization whenever I'm pitching things to clients. So inspiration is pretty straightforward. I think a lot of the times it's like pulling the AI slot machine. You never know what you're going to get out of the other end of that. So it can kind of spark some creative, thought processes just by putting in a few words.
It's really like a brainstorm, like a visual brainstorm.
It really is, and just changing a few words can really kind of change the outcome of it. So another thing, it's inspiring. It actually generates really good color palettes from time to time. So that's something that I've noticed, and I have no shame in taking an existing color palette and then making something cool out of it. It's nothing new, Adobe Color does it, or Cooler, however they want to pronounce it. So I just think it's a cool application. It also, again, to generate just creative thoughts. So assets, I'll take, like the picture on the right there is generated out of the AI. And then I'll go into Photoshop and create like a texture brush for it. And then you have the ability to texturize any type of artwork, which in the print industry, especially these rock and roll bands, really like the heavy, distressed, kind of worn out look.
I never thought that it would last this long.
Yeah, it's still going. People
I think we did
still
a
love
distressed thing pre-computer in like 1995 or something, and it's not died out since.
Yeah, it's so cool, and you know, sometimes people just don't want to wait on the plastisol to crack itself, so they want the texture on it off the bat. But yeah, it's easy to generate a whole bunch of different types of textures pretty quickly, and I kind of compare it to taking a picture of some tree bark and then doing a similar process, which I've done before. But you can just...
But I got to tell a story about distressed. So the first distressed job we had to do, Frank Zappa's wearing a shirt. It says Pipco. It was like a plumbing company. It's like a white body and green sleeves, green ink. And it was just like you said, it was, the ink had cracked over time. So we tried to make a crappy print like that would crack, and we couldn't do it. And eventually, visually, we had to do it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to do it now, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and you can get really good results too if you get the scale right. I think that's what it is with the plastisol cracking. You have to get the scale right, otherwise it looks faked. So yeah, I use it for textures. This is part of the mock-up section. So visualization. Sometimes there are designs from clients that they request. This is for a radio station in Fort Worth, and it's not very visually impressive by itself, right? This is their mascot from their logo, and then just Texas repeated behind it. So whenever I'm sending it over to the client, I tend to do something similar to this, where it just kind of puts it in a setting that has the same tone as where it might wind up. I think that helps sell it a little bit more.
Looks like a catalog sheet. It looks awesome.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I use it. So I could take my camera out, dust it off, and go take pictures, and buy my buddy a 6-pack and have Seth wear my hoodie. But I can do it from my computer now and generate this guy, which that's an AI model that I put my design on. And within Photoshop, you can actually do generative fill now. So even if you don't have enough in the frame, you can make it happen. And then this is pretty much what I would wind up sending a client so they could use it on their website or approval, whatever. Just same concept, kind of put it in the atmosphere that you think it's going to live in. And then to end off, I just wanted to kind of give a comparison to what comes out of Midjourney and what an illustrator like myself is capable of. So I'll let you guys guess which one is the AI artwork. It's the one on the left, which is cool. That might work for some clients. That might work. But the one on the right is actually Rockwood Go-Karts over here in Fort Worth. They just did a rebrand. It's really cool. Actually, they did a big sign with all this branding, so it's fun to see that out in the wild driving by it. Another example of kind of you could use it as inspiration, but it just doesn't cross the finish line. The one on the left is a wizard running, yes, and he has something in his hand. I'm not sure what it is. But the pose is similar, and maybe in a few years it'll be capable of, I think we've talked about this before, I could teach the AI to generate my style by feeding it artwork, and then maybe the wizard looks a little more like the one on the right. That's kind of the short little presentation I had prepared. Sorry. If you guys want to see more of my work, feel free to scan the QR code, and my work should come up if the internet is in order. So
the other thing you didn't touch on, but I think is an important undercurrent of what you're saying, is to use AI ethically as well. It's not right to be ripping off artists like yourself.
No, absolutely not. And that's kind of it's a gray area, because I'm very intrigued by the things that the technology can do, but I don't want to see a design that looks like my artwork impersonating me, and I didn't even know about it. So it is a strange kind of double-edged sword and I think that it's inevitable. People are probably, people are going to do it. I'm not the type of person to go in and put in the style of so-and-so. There are two sides to the coin as far as ethics.
I mean, in some ways, it's just automated what we all looked for inspiration, I think, in other people's work, right?
Right.
And there's usually the things we look at weren't original either out of someone's brain.
Right.
They sit in the desert doing psilocybin and come up with it. They probably looked at something else.
Well, I do, as far as like the inspiration part of the design process, I think it's like pulling a book off the shelf. I have books of, Aaron Draplin and all these other illustrators that, sit on my shelf, and I'll pull those off too and look at those and say, oh, that's a great idea. I'm gonna take this composition and do my own take on it. So it is similar, but it's not like I'm taking a picture and then scanning it in and then, putting new text on it and hitting print. So
I think if you really look, it's always kind of obvious. If something's just AI created, it looks like it.
Yeah.
It's like, that looks AI created. It looks crappy, sort of. There's something, it's expedient but not good. And same as if you had copied someone's style.
Yeah.
If you copy their style, it's going to be like a third-rate Aaron Draplin.
Right.
It's not going to be his, you can tell.
Right. And I think there's always going to be that human-to-human type of connection too whenever you're creating artwork. When I'm creating artwork for a client, I'm trying to act as almost I'm the middleman. I'm just trying to take your idea, the energy that you have, whether it's an event, whether it's a t-shirt design that you want to sell to a specific audience. I like to get to know the person behind the project and know the energy that is going into it, whether it's a event, what type of event it is it farm made, is it, a screen printing event. And I think that personality is ultimately what translates into the product that everybody's excited about. And with AI, fully generated AI images, I just don't think that that's there. I don't think it translates that well, no matter what type of prompts you're putting into it. So
I wanted to mention another project that we did together, and when we put the video up, we'll add that slide. But so we did a little experiment. We were working on an event at my place where we did training called Print Fest, and Alyx was busy. Plus, we wanted to try this as an ethical experiment, if you will. So we basically took Alyx's style, created the poster for the event, and we paid Alyx. So rather than just ripping him off, we actually got him to agree ahead of time, give us images, and we used AI, which we, in the end, had to spend some hours on it, fixing it. But it was done knowingly, which I think is a whole different approach.
Yeah, and I love the experimental aspect of that as well. I think that was really cool, and I think it's going to be a thing that, grows in the industry, where it's maybe you have, licensing to a particular artist style set, and, once that's in place, you can kind of generate images that resembles the work. So
it's going to happen. We might as well figure out a way that it benefits the artist in some way, because there's a hell of a lot of rip-offs going on.
Right. Yeah, and I think,
that's a little like sampling with music, right?
Right.
I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was first, it was just ripped off, and then eventually you had to pay for it, right?
Right. And that's, it's not going to stop me from the creative process, which is why I do it in the first place. I love sitting down and drawing. I have since I was a kid, so the main reason I do it is to get excited and help the people that, I think are cool, do cool things. And at the end of the day, if other people are licensing my work and getting cool designs out of it, and I'm getting a little kickback, okay, I'll be focused on this now. I got this other T-shirt that I'm working on with my uncle. So,
all right. Anything else, or maybe have questions?
We can open it up for questions.
Yeah. Any questions?
What do you use for your inspiration? Where do you go? Like, what
So
Let's repeat the question.
Okay,
it's
yeah,
on
go
video.
ahead.
So what do you go to for inspiration, and what do you use for the graphics in terms of AI?
So I'll go to, I actually do Midjourney. I started out, like whenever it was, I think it was a year and a half ago, it started to kind of get some traction. So I got on there and started poking around, and I like it. There are some other things that are coming out, that like Firefly and things like that are integrated into Adobe that I look forward to playing around with. But as far as like tools outside of Midjourney, obviously Photoshop. I showed a slide with the generative expand and stuff like that. So I think that there's a lot of good usage that are getting rolled into Illustrator and Photoshop and the Adobe suite. Like even in InDesign now, instead of setting a document up for bleed, you can do auto bleed and it'll generative fill, which is going to save a lot of people a lot of time. So things like that, like they're already in. I'm pretty sure they just made it in the 2025 version of Photoshop. It's not even the beta anymore. So just playing around with stuff like that and seeing what I can get it to do for me. Like there was a slide in here that has like a page tear in the middle of it, and I could have easily, hand drawn it or scanned it or whatever, but I could just select it now and say tear the page or whatever, and does it in Photoshop. Yeah.
All right, so the question was for something like that, Midjourney or the Photoshop?
I'm actually using Photoshop more, I think, whenever it comes to the photography type stuff, which they do have. You can pan in Midjourney, but I'll just take the original aspect ratio out of Midjourney, put it in Photoshop, and then it does it really quick. It gives you 3 options off the bat. You can kind of switch through, flick through which ones you like, and I think that it's really reliable. So I don't see any reason to go back into Midjourney and have to wait for it to process and everything whenever I already have it in Photoshop. And if Photoshop can do it and it doesn't bother me for what it's being used for, I'll just go ahead and use it. Yeah, that was.
The question is the city background. How did you do that?
That was, so the first, I can go back a little bit here, maybe. So this is the original aspect ratio in Midjourney, and the reason, the aspect ratio that you put in Midjourney will actually affect the composition of the shot that it outputs. So I did a portrait so that it would have most of the torso, the top of the head, and then the pants. I wanted kind of like a full body crop, but then again, that spits it out at a certain resolution, and then the sides where you can see like the transparency fill, all that was added in with Photoshop, and it took it probably, 10 seconds to generate 3 different options. But looking at this, if I send a client this, they're not buying the photo, they're not buying the model, the hoodie or whatever. I want them to focus on the design and then say, oh, okay, that's how it's going to work out in Fort Worth whenever we go on lunch breaks and it's chilly out. You know what I mean? Go grab a beer.
Those are really good questions. Any more questions?
That base tear, you say you did it in Photoshop?
Yeah, that middle tear, the tear in the middle, all I did for that was I filled the right side of the page black and then had that photo off to the left, and I selected a strip that I wanted the tear to be in and just put a torn edge and then hit generate, and it generates it. But again, it's I have so many assets saved on external hard drives and things of torn edges and all that, and instead of going and fishing through those things and adding it to the document, now I can just say, hey, that looks good enough for what I'm trying to get across, the energy, the vibe. So, there's nothing wrong with doing a little shortcut.
It's funny, but it kind of leads me to what makes a really good t-shirt design is often the details, like the last details. Alex and I work on Farm Aid. They sell a lot of merchandise. This year we sold $625,000 worth in one day. And we get to see what works and what doesn't every year. And like the last little tweaks, like I'm sure for his customer, that last little tear just makes the whole thing that much better. And you know what? AI is not doing those last little things. It's not going to make up, at least now, for the aesthetic sense and for the attention to detail that an artist is going to put into it to bring it that last mile. You know, it really makes a difference. And I think it's what makes it look not AI. You know.
Yeah, that last 10% is usually where I spend, half of my time. So a lot of it is up front, like, hey, here's kind of the layout, here's how everything's gonna fit, and if you're good with it, I can polish it up, add the texture in, add the little details. Like on this one, you can kind of see the screen texture on there behind the record, because Brett is a rock star. I don't know if you guys know that, Brett Bowden at Printed Threads. So he's really into music, and Panther City, obviously, for Fort Worth. So.
Other questions?
What is it? Oh, Dolly. Actually, I wanted to whenever it was first opening up, and I got on the waiting list, and before I could access it, I got access to Midjourney. So I just haven't went back to check in on Dolly. But now there's Grok on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. There's so many that are coming out that each model has their own little quirks. But
yeah, actually, we have a series. I'll give a plug for on the Ink Kitchen YouTube channel. It's called Fahrenheit, and a very good T-shirt artist, Michelle Moxley, who's worked forever, Gildan, and all kinds of companies, New Buffalo. She's doing a series that's also free to watch called Fahrenheit, and you should check that out. She evaluates sometimes the different platforms, and I would recommend checking it out, even though it's our own thing. It's I think very deep dive. Ink Kitchen on YouTube. Yep, check that out. All right, any other questions? All right, how about a hand for Alex here?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
He's going to stick around for a minute if you want to ask him questions in person. And check out the poster he designed over there, which if you buy one, it goes to a great homeless program here in Fort Worth. And thanks to our sponsors that you see up on the screen. Thanks for coming.